There's plenty of videos out there on TIG welding aluminum and the technique, and that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'm here to give you some hints for people who haven't TIG welded aluminum yet, or maybe just starting out. Now, first and foremost, probably the biggest issue that I had with my specific machine, you may or may not have this. If you're just starting out and your machine makes this noise, and the arc won't initiate, here's my hint for you. Take the tip of your torch before you weld anything, before you push the pedal at all, and touch it to the metal for a couple seconds. I'm told this forces your machine to realize what's going on, and you should have no problem getting an arc after that. And I just make it a habit now, before I do any welding at all, before I even touch the foot pedal, I do that. I touch my torch to the metal. Second, and this is for the people who have not TIG welded aluminum yet or attempted to, you're gonna have to get over the jump scare. Because I had to get over the jump scare. This is not like flux welding or MIG welding or TIG welding steel. TIG welding aluminum is very loud, and the sound it makes when it makes an arc initially can be kind of startling. So you're gonna have to get over that jump scare, and you're gonna have to do it over and over and over again until it doesn't affect you. Now, how I've kind of combated this, down here on my pre-flow, I have set it to about half a second, maybe 3/4 of a second, and that's trained me to where when I push the foot pedal, it goes ch, and then I have about half a second before the arc will start. And in a very Pavlov-esque style, that's trained my mind to go, okay, when I hear that noise, a little bit later we're gonna get the arc, nothing to be concerned with. Next hint, it's going to get hot. So you either need to have a very large pain tolerance, or use the cheap leather gloves from Home Depot, Lowe's, Harbor Freight, wherever. This is like the thick leather suede type ones. These are like $6 at Harbor Freight. They do sell these TIG welding gloves, but these are not very protective and they can get quite hot. Yes, these allow more movement, but honestly, every time that I TIG weld, I prefer these, especially for my torch hand. Next, grinding tungsten f***ing sucks. So I highly recommend you pick up at least 2 packs. They come in packs of 10. I will link this specific one down below because it's good for anything, aluminum, stainless, steel, whatever. But I recommend buying 2 packs of these and sharpening every last one of them. Now, if you're using a regular sized torch, that would give you 20 electrodes, and you would be surprised how quickly, when you're learning, you're gonna blow through those. You need to maintain a pretty tight clearance between your electrode and your workpiece, and you're going to touch the electrode to the workpiece and ruin it. And this is what it looks like when that happens. There's aluminum all over your electrode, your arc doesn't want to act properly, and it's just a nightmare. So then you gotta switch your electrode. And are you gonna feel like going and grinding more electrodes when you're in the middle of a project? Absolutely not. So I highly recommend spending your first day just grinding electrodes. Before you do any aluminum welding, you need to make sure that it is clean. Like super clean. This is not like flux welding or MIG welding where, there's some rust on it, I'll still weld through it. See, if your aluminum is dirty, or even when you're TIG welding steel, if your steel is dirty, that ignites and it causes all kinds of problems, and your aluminum gets burnt. And you'll get this nasty black soot all over your aluminum or your steel, and it just doesn't look good. Next, we're gonna deal with welding thin stuff to thicker stuff. This tube is very thin, and I had this issue when I built my own intake recently. A lot of times if you're trying to weld thin aluminum to thicker aluminum, the thinner aluminum is just going to kind of blow away and disappear. To avoid that, obviously there's some technique to it. You definitely want to see a pool of aluminum on your thicker piece. But in addition to that, it drastically helps for you to preheat your aluminum, especially the thicker metal that you have. So I highly recommend going to Harbor Freight and getting a heat gun, and just put it on the highest setting that it has, and just sit there on your thicker aluminum that you're welding until it's way too hot to touch. Then, when you go to weld it, it'll initiate a puddle much quicker, and then you can quickly weld it to the thinner metal. So that's it. There's my list of things that will hopefully help you when you're starting out TIG welding, or maybe thinking about learning TIG welding and you need to kind of prepare like I did. And I'm sure that once you get the technique down, you'll be doing all kinds of stuff. I recently built this intake for the very truck that I am sitting in, and it's not pretty, but it doesn't leak, and it works fantastic. And you can do these kinds of things too. Remember, if literally anyone has ever done it before, it's possible. But anyway, I've got things to do, so as usual, you be good while I'm gone, and I'll see you next time. Have a good week.